another dramatic day of testimony in the double murder trial of South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and federal litigator Vic Bajaj. And Vic, I want to play that forensic scientist again, talking about the killer that would have all kinds of blood and matter on them, and I'll get your response on the other side. Play this, watch.
All of that activity was in direct alignment with the shooter. And so I think minimally, that shooter is getting covered with this material, getting more or less the shock wave of that effect, and more than likely getting hit with at least something that could have done injury, a bone fragment and or a pellet fragment.
Although the reports are he had a different shirt on before the deaths and a white T-shirt on afterwards, he had nothing on them, and that makes sense unless you went home and you changed. So it's a good point.
Well, that's correct. And also he has hair, right? And he has eyelashes, eyebrows, nose cavities, mouth cavities. And from this expert witness testimony, Trace, we understand there's so much material that's coming on back through a blowback scenario that's very common during these gunshot wounds. And there's none of that evidence on Alex Murdaugh. Now, this strikes at the heart of the prosecution's case. Prosecution says bigger hole is exit wound. Well, the expert witnesses from the defense say, well, it's exactly the opposite. Perhaps it provides reasonable doubt.
What do you make of the defense's two-shooter theory in this case?
I think it makes sense. It's very difficult to manipulate two long guns within a small area of shooting something like this, even when you have a tussle or a physical interaction with people. We don't have defensive wounds, so the defense is portraying an argument that it is an ambush-style killing or killings. Let's not forget, very importantly, the judge today authorized a visit of the scene, which will be crucial to put that piece of evidence in conjunction with the defense experts.
So they visit the scene, you have closing arguments, and what if you're the prosecution? What do you really have to focus on in closing arguments to kind of get over this?
Well, I think the prosecution's made it very clear so far, Trace. They just want to harp on the lack of reliability, lack of credibility that Mr. Murdaugh has. That's why the financial crimes have been front and center. I think they have a very difficult time finding the forensic evidence to show he was solely responsible for these murders.
So what I hear you saying is you favor the defendant in this case? It looks like maybe there's reasonable doubt?
It's hard to really say what the jury is thinking, but without feeling the ether, I can say there's more than enough reasonable doubt, having considered now these expert witnesses from a forensic point of view. It just makes sense.
I keep saying over and over again, the jury, I mean, we have dealt with this for years covering these trials. The jury always wants somebody to blame. And in this case, so far, really nobody to blame, though.
Well, that's right. And the prosecution could have an argument if they started off on the right foot, knowing this type of forensic evidence and testimony was coming, by saying he didn't commit the murders, but he may have been responsible for the person who did or the people who did. Remains to be seen.